So thank you very much. I guess I won for the longest and most complex title of talks in this conference. Andy apologized yesterday because I have the slot after the party. I guess it was an ingenious move to put it there because either you're already or even again sleeping, so you miss my rant about Silverstripe, or you will be offended by my talk and will be awake for the rest of the day. So let's check out what it is. You might know at least one of my codes. I've just checked about 9 years ago. We've submitted this for a competition by Silverstripe where they wanted to have some example code that points out what you can do with Silverstripe in an easy way. And well, I guess it aged quite well for 9 years. And although I'm talking about things I don't like about Silverstripe, or I think there is a lot of possibility to improve it, I suppose Silverstripe is a framework where you can achieve very much with very little effort. And this is hopefully not a bad or ugly example for this, but either a great or even awesome example. So, who am I? I'm Stephan Bauer. I'm co-founder of Relaxed. We're a small company based in Vienna. We do customer projects, and we are a very small company, but we try to provide a full service from concept over design and programming and even hosting and making updates to our customer projects over a long period of time. So we have customers that we work together for 10 or 15 years, and that's quite an important part for us. Another important part for us is we try to self-host most things. So, for example, TypeSense, we've installed our own TypeSense server cluster for our customers, and this is something that we are really proud of, although we are quite a small company. So, let's dive in. I want to start with entities and ORM. When about 10, must be longer, 10, 12 years ago, somewhere at Silverstripe 3 times, we were looking for a new CMS for our project. And the first thing that really hit me when I read through the docs was how easy it is to create entities and relations between entities. And this is something that is really simple and effortless, and it also scales quite well. I have a small UML diagram of one of our recent projects. It's not really up to date. You can't see anything. That doesn't matter. It's fine. It's not a rest alcohol or something. It's really a complex thing, but it wasn't that complex to create in Silverstripe because creating relations and entities is, as you all know, an easy task. But as always, I want to talk about the trade-offs that have been made when implementing Silverstripe the way it is. If you got some entity, for example, a real estate project, and you type this, you don't get any auto-suggestions. You can define your fields with using PHP doc comments, but there is no static type security. You don't know, is this a project, is it not a project, and if it is a real estate project, what properties and what methods does it have? When I compare this with a Symfony project, which is something that we use for some customer projects as well, you would define an interface and all the methods and getters, and it would look very different if you have a real estate project. You would get an auto-completion, do you want the description, the logo, the name, or the properties, and so on. So this is some kind of a trade-off for the dynamic nature of Silverstripe, and it's a trade-off for developer experience, but it's also a trade-off for optimization of the code. If there is no information for the compiler, what types do you have? You can have, not that much of an optimization. I want to show you something that has worked out for us, which is a compromise between defining all the methods, which is, cumbersome, or just ignoring it and typing blindly, okay, I guess it's the logo or it's the name. What we are doing recently is we are defining some constants on our entities. They're something like db __ name or description or has many properties and so on. So this allows us to reference these magic names by using a self has many properties, for example, or even for db has one or owns. It's not perfect, it's a little bit weird on the first look, I guess, but it helps us to easily change a name, to track where is a reference to this name. We also use it when we have some methods calling. This is well, something that worked for us. What else are we missing? There is an ongoing discussion in the Silverstripe framework about changing to a different ORM, for example, Doctrinas is quite common in Symfony projects. And, well, there is some disadvantages because in Doctrine the definition of entities and relations is typically a little bit more complex and more verbose, but there are some advantages. For example, the identity map. In Doctrine, if you fetch any entity either by primary ID or by some filter query, you will only get the object once. So if you query it again, for example, then by some of its fields, you will get the same object. So you have really an identity map where all these are stored, and you can compare two objects just by comparing, is it the same double equal object. This is, on one hand, a performance optimization. On the other hand, it makes it easier to compare two objects. And there's also a third aspect of this. As you have only one object, if you change it at one place, you will always get the modified version. Second thing, foreign key constraints. This is something that Silverstripe doesn't use. One can argue it's not necessary because the integrity is already checked on an application level. But in some cases, it might be beneficial. I suppose some of you have had to change something in the database directly, and if it's already with a foreign key constraint, then the integrity of the data is ensured on a database level, which can be an advantage. This is something we don't get in Silverstripe at the moment. Unit of work, this is some kind of abstraction. It's like a transaction on an application level in Symfony Doctrine. And you can add elements, you can add entities that you want to persist, and then in one flush, all these entities will be persisted. So it's not like in Silverstripe where you have an active object approach and you write it and it's immediately written to the database. No, it is more that you add them to the entity manager, and at the end of your logical step, you flush it and then it's written to the database. This has some performance advantages. It allows you to extend some things, you can trigger things when the persistence is done, so this is also an advantage. Proper use of transactions. This is not a special feature of Doctrine or Symfony. I've checked it currently in the Silverstripe core modules. There are seven parts where transactions are used. This seems a little bit, well, I suppose there could be more parts where you have different updates that should be in a transaction, so I guess we are still at the very beginning of using transactions in Silverstripe. What is blocking as a change to Doctrine? Well, one thing is enums. Doctrine doesn't support enums. This is something they say is a feature that shouldn't be used. All you know Silverstripe is using enums quite a lot. I was very happy to hear yesterday that the class field will no longer be an enum, or that you can change it easily, because we also had some project where a rebuild of the database with a new data object was taking really, really long due to an update. And if you're really brave, I guess you are brave because you're already here in the morning, you can already try this. It's quite simple to change the class name from an enum to a varchar, and we've tested it and it worked well, so we had no problems so far. So if you already have a big project and don't wait for Silverstripe 6, just give it a try. It seems to work already. Good. Yeah, some other topics related to entities and ORM. Versioning, it's great because it's out of the box available. That's not something that can be easily done in Doctrine. There are some extensions that you can use, but, well, it's not a default feature. But we all know there is one downside of versioning. Someone already awake and wants to guess what is missing from versioning? Excuse me? Cleanup is one thing, yeah. And the second thing, relationships. I know there is a snapshot manager, an experimental extension by Silverstripe, but relations is a difficult topic, and it's not only difficult because it isn't a proper module, it's conceptually very difficult. You have two entities in a relation. What does it mean if one changes, the other doesn't change? It's really a difficult topic. We tried to solve it by ourselves, but it's a really difficult problem and it's not an easy thing. So, we can't blame Silverstripe for it. It's, inherently complex. That's something that bothered me a lot when starting with Silverstripe, namely, is it a page or not? If I create a new data object, let's say a real estate project, and a real estate project has some detail page where all the information is presented, but is it a page? Is a real estate project really a page? At first we said, no, it's not a page, that's insane. And we had to implement URL segment, redirection of changed URL segments, and so on, and it was really cumbersome. I don't think it's a good idea to make it a page. Maybe in some simple projects it's fine. What we started to use is a composition pattern, so we have a real estate project detail page which references a real estate project, and so these things are separated, but we can still use the page features of Silverstripe. But at least for me, this was a really difficult thing, and my colleague had often got this question, hey, is it a page or is it not a page? It's a news entry, is it a page or is it not? So, just wanted to point out this. Yeah, I have to add all these rant and positive and negative things about Silverstripe are very subjective. You may disagree, you may agree. I have asked some of you yesterday what you think the strengths and weaknesses are, and at least it's quite similar to what I thought, so I hope it's somehow representative. Okay, let's go to the backend. The backend was the second thing I really loved about Silverstripe, because after you created the entities and you created a model admin, you could give it to your user and say, hey, just fill it, or you can fill it yourself. So this is a really big feature. I show you some screenshots of a recent project. It's about Gustav Klimt, just to show you how different such a user interface can look like. You have a classical model admin with images, some labels. You have translated fields with tracking if translation has been done. You can even have multiple columns to make it a little bit better to understand. You can have some inline editing features, uploading images and adding information like subtitles, captions, and so on. We can even track who is translating the texts inside for billing purposes. And this is all just a model admin. Of course, there has been some effort to make it good usable, but in fact, it's just a simple model admin. For example, here we have multiple grid fields on one page because deleting entities became so cumbersome. This is the project I've showed you, the UML entity relation diagram at the first. So it was really complex to delete an entity because there were so many relations. So we had an overview which relations are blocking deletion, which would be deleted if I delete this entity. And this was, also easy integratable. Okay, I want to show you two different backends because it's always good to know what other systems are doing. Is there anybody who knows Zulu CMS? Oh, I've told you about it? Or do it find itself? Okay. Zulu CMS is a Symfony-based CMS developed by some Austrian people, I guess in Vorarlberg or so, but and it has a quite nice interface. Just dive into the demo. You start with some search field. You can just search for an entry, and let's have a look how they manage pages. It's quite similar to Silverstripe, and you have edit fields on the left, but look what happens if I edit the title on the left side and edit the text on the left side. They really have live update of the preview on the right side, which I really like. But of course, it comes with some trade-off because it's more difficult to implement a block. You have to implement JavaScript components that this works properly for all new blocks. You can move the blocks around on the left side. You have different types of blocks. So this is, quite simple, but it's a nice addition that you can have live updates. They have also some kind of selection of related entities, which is quite similar, I would say, to what you get in Silverstripe. So that's Zulu CMS. I would say it's interesting to see that it's in some parts or in many parts similar to how Silverstripe does things. Good. Something different, WordPress. I guess some of you know this platform. They have recently is not true, I suppose 3-4 years ago, switched to Gutenberg editor, which allows really inline editing my subjective opinion is I don't like it that much because it's really difficult, especially if you have, if you need to find the right place to edit, if you have really structured data that need to put in, not just some text. It's not really that intuitive. So I'm quite happy that Silverstripe still has this separated approach of an edit interface and then preview. So from my point of view, it's a good trade-off. And if you have a look at all the elements on the left, on the right side, and WordPress interface is normally quite complex and not as easily guessable as some Silverstripe interface. So I guess the backend is in many parts a really good designed part of Silverstripe. Okay, let's skip this. Customizing. If you want to customize the backend, it's, well, you need to know a lot of things like Webpack, React, Redux, Entwine a little bit, Babel, GraphQL, and you need a schema. And this was the thing that most people said yesterday when I asked them what is difficult in Silverstripe. It's extending the backend and adding new functionality. And this is something where my personal opinion is that the idea to use React and GraphQL was not the right direction. I suppose Silverstripe would benefit more by using the server-side solutions that are already there and combine them with some JavaScript to add the interactivity that you need. But I suppose that React is just some, well, big heavy tool for something that is as lightweight as Silverstripe should be. So I find it very easy to extend Silverstripe itself, but very difficult for customizing the interface. There are some things I've just discussed with someone yesterday that sometimes people have difficulties using the CMS. I show you my favorite bug. I've already fixed it in Silverstripe 3, but it resurfaced in Silverstripe 4. Do you notice? Oh my God. Oh my God. What is the trick? You have to find the blue color. If it's blue, it's fine, not if there's a green check mark. Okay, this is, well, just a week ago, someone called me, I can't resort our pages. What is wrong? I said, okay, I make it for you. So I guess there are some small things that we could improve that would make Silverstripe way better. So maybe I just search for my old patch regarding this issue. Okay, template engine. Well, the Silverstripe template engine it works, I would say. Yesterday we've heard there will be some kind of abstraction, so this is no longer a rant of me what could be better, but it's a preview, a sneak preview of what you can do in Silverstripe 6, I guess. And I will show you a Twig template, because what Twig can do, yeah, I suppose it's big enough, you can have different blocks in the template, and you can override these blocks selectively in the sub-template. So this is our main template. And then I have a sub-template that extends this base template, and I can select, okay, I would like to have a special title, and I want to override the sidebar block and the body header and so on. And this is really easy because I don't know if this is a problem that you have too, but if there's a sidebar, I typically have some rendering calls or render sidebar here, and this returns some part of a template to put it there. So this is quite simple with Twig. And so, yeah, it should be in 6.0, I guess, what have I heard. There's another nice feature. If you look at this block, there is this minus at the right top and the left bottom part. And this is not a mistake. This is the so-called white space control of Twig. And normally, if you would add this minus, you would have some output that looks like this, which is, well, not so nice. If you add the minus, the white space is collapsed and removed, and you have a nice output. It's also not about the nice output, it's also about sometimes white space in HTML can be a problem in former times with display inline block or so, or if you want to use an empty selector, there shouldn't be any white space. So this is a quite simple solution for this in Twig. Okay, so coming soon. And I'm coming to, well, some other topics that have been mentioned yesterday, and I strongly agree. Forms are difficult because form templating is difficult. Even in Symfony using Twig, it's difficult. It's just a topic that, well, I guess most of us don't really like, and I believe there's not much we can do to make it better in the moment. Asset management is something that we struggle sometimes if we have customers with a lot of pictures. It would be easier to, well, can manage the storage paths and don't let the user select where to store it. But from what I've heard yesterday, it should be possible, or there is some work done to abstract it in Silverstripe 6 as well, so maybe it will get better. File variance is a difficult topic because I don't know what's about you, but I would like to use some different image formats when generating thumbnails, not only JPEGs or whatever it is. But file variants are basically always with the same extension. There's some work done to change this, but it's still as far as I know, it's still in the early stages, so it's not working yet properly. Or is it already released? I'm not sure, but I know that's... Okay, so it's already there, but it has been a big problem for a long time. And yeah, so yes, performance, I would say, depends on who you ask. It can be difficult to achieve a good performance if you have a lot of entities on a page. You might need some caching. At least for us, it's very often a problem that we have to solve. And one thing that was mentioned very positive yesterday is the community, and I strongly agree. It also helps that I suppose most of us have a similar approach to programming. I remember when we were working on some WordPress project and there was an error message and you Google it and you say, oh, no problem, just add an at before the statement and it's done. And so, yeah, that's not the way we want to solve our technical problems. So I guess community is a good part here as well. Okay, so last thing, my music teacher always told me if you have a piece of music, the people will only remember the beginning and especially the end. So I will end with something awesome so that you have a good impression of this talk. And I suppose the most important feature is how easy it is to extend Silverstripe projects at all. So what do I mean? Normally, when you have some class A and you can extend it, and that's a classical approach to add features to something as an inheritance. This even works on multiple levels, and it even works if you don't have access to the inner classes A and B. You can just extend it as long as it's not a final class or something like that. Let's make an example. Say it's some content block and some image block, and I want to extend this. This could be something like this. We could have some other blocks. Let's say it has some hint that is this in a sidebar, for example. And the first problem with inheritance is this is too much inheritance. There's no multiple inheritance in PHP, so this is not a valid approach. Let's do something else. Let's do traits. That's something PHP can do for some time. It's a form of a mix-in, so you have composition instead of inheritance. You could use it and have some block C that uses these both traits. And what is important to know is that the traits belong to the subclass, so they're not part of the actual block, but of the subclass. So if you have a lot of blocks that you want to build, and they all should have should all have the hint block trait, you need to make a lot of classes, and it's not really easy to add behavior to the base class itself. You can only add it to the subclasses that you have control over. So what is the solution for this? It's composition over inheritance, an approach for many problems in IT, and you have some parts that are filled up in this base class. The base class needs to know that there is some thing that's going on that needs to be customized. There are different approaches for this. This would be the WordPress approach. There's some callout, some event where you can react to and do something. Or you could have a more Symfony approach with dependency injection, a driver service structure where you delegate some functionality. But there is something missing that Silverstripe can, and which is not possible with this approach. It's adding new functions, new functionality that isn't part of A. And that's the reason why we have the data extensions. The data extensions are part of A, no longer of the subclass D. So this is the way how extension works, and this is, from my point of view, the main reason why it is really easy to write modules for Silverstripe and to have different modules work together. Of course, there are reasons or parts where this can be problematic. If there are concurring implementations for an update hook or something like this, that's a difficult issue, but for the most part, it's really easy to use it, and from my point of view, one of the big reasons why Silverstripe is so easily to extend and good to use from a developer's perspective. Okay, I wanted to give you more time for questions, but I just made it in time. One more idea I would like to join with you and would ask you for some feedback. I think you may know there is some kind of survey of the state of some CSS or HTML, and I would really like to do something for Silverstripe for collecting what you think or the community thinks are parts that need to be improved or parts where you're really happy with. So maybe that's something that we can do together, maybe with the S2 Hub or Silverstripe themselves. So that is an idea from my point of view. Okay, 0 seconds. I'm at the end, actually, and I would be glad to hear your opinions or comments now or also later during a break. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you, you said you wanted to ask some questions, perhaps?
Well, yeah, the question is, do you agree, do you completely disagree? What's your take on good and bad and ugly in Silverstripe? Any comments? Is there any chance I will be invited again, or is it over? Okay, there's one question at the very end. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's one question. Here's the mic.
It's actually not really a question about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just I question: do you expect Twig to be in 6?
From what I've heard yesterday, the view layer will be abstracted, and you can switch it to some other implementation. And he said that they already have a working Twig, almost fully working Twig implementation. So I suggest it could be possible. And Philip yesterday told me he has tried something with PHP templates, and this seems to work already in Silverstripe 5. So I suppose it's doable if you want to, if you really want to.
Doable sounds like a plan.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else want to comment or ask a question or anything else?
Okay. So
all right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Big round of applause for Stephan.